politics. It's something that I really enjoyed from a young age. Never really thought about going into a career within it, but I did want to find out more about the political institutions that we have, not just in Wales, but around the United Kingdom and beyond. So when I was at school, I did work experience. I did it at the Welsh Assembly at the time. Now it's obviously a parliament, and they liked what I did, so they sent me to the European Parliament. Whilst I went to university in London, I did experience in the House of Commons, and it kind of developed my love for politics. And that's why I even studied at university, did my master's in it as well. But then when I graduated, I somehow ended up in banking. After a few years of banking, making lots of money, living the high life and all of that, what most people will think is the high life. Yes, I did it. I then wanted to pursue something different. So I went into media, had a really good media career for over 10 years, did radio, TV, print, everything. And eventually then I think circumstances, my life changed in such a way. So my dad was a politician. He sadly passed away in 2020. Prior to that, I had stood for 5 elections. The opportunity came about when he passed away that his seat was available. And I honestly, in all honesty, thought to myself, I don't want to do this. I don't think I should go for this. But after a lot of persistence and insistence by many people who we know, not family or friends, but mainly his colleagues, people who he'd represented for over 13 years and 6 months, they all said, you know what, you really should do this because he was a good politician, but you've got the potential to be a great one. So I went for it, didn't expect to win it. And here we are 2.5 years later. Me, myself, and my arranged marriage was something I started probably in my 20s. Just like most Asian girls, my mom started bringing lots of proposals to the table. And to be fair, people started asking about me, as we call it, from the age of about 18. My dad and my mom were really good. They sort of brushed everyone off and said she needs to finish her university, finish her education. Then we'll only think and look at marriage after that. And when that happened, I became so career orientated that they realized very quickly that this wasn't going to be happening at the age of like 21 or 22, when most parents sort of start saying you need to settle down. So my parents said, okay, fine, take a bit of leeway. And at that time, obviously, I was very new to this. And unfortunately, arranged marriage has such a bad connotation within the mainstream media. I don't think there's a element where people understood that there's actually quite a humorous side to it. And it can actually be something that's not heinous, that's not seen as a criminal activity on the news. I mean, there are so many cases of girls who are taken abroad and forced, and endure forced marriage. And I didn't want to take away from that, but I equally wanted to show that there is a very different side to it. So me, myself, my arranged marriage is part reality, part fiction. It follows the protagonist, a character called Nikki, and she meets a variety of different bachelors. Each one is different after different areas of perhaps their life, their personality, etc. And it's basically a spin on the arranged marriage process. So you can take that how you will once you've read the book. I have been very happily single for quite some time. And I think a lot of my friends, family, they've all wanted to have the big fat Asian wedding, which will probably come with me anyway. But the fact of the matter is that no one has ever put pressure on me. And I have to appreciate my family for doing that. They've always said, look, whoever is the person you decide, we will 100% support you. But if you are busy or you're unable to find someone, we will happily do so. So each chapter is an introduction through a different way. So friend, family, parent, colleague, they all vary. So it shows a variety of people who you can meet through a variety of different other people and see what comes out at the end of it. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different stories, lots of different chapters. But I think whoever reads the book, whether you're a male or a female, you'll certainly be able to relate to it for sure. I would say don't give up hope. I believe that they always say, and I speak fluent Urdu and Punjabi, so they always say कि जोड़ियां ऊपर से बन के आती हैं, which basically means we're all made in pairs. So even if you're not with the person, or you're single, or you're struggling, or you're finding it really difficult to find your ideal person or your dream like husband or wife, rest assured they will be coming soon, I'm sure. I'm a really good balance of East meets West. My parents were very particular in teaching me about the language, the culture, the traditions when growing up, but equally they were very much off the basis that I am British born, and it's really important for me to integrate into society here. That doesn't mean going off the rails and doing all sorts of crazy things that any parent would worry about their child, but equally it was important that they understand that I am Asian. I am from a South Asian background, and it's really important that I enmesh my cultures and my traditions and take them with me, as opposed to forget about them, leave them behind, or be embarrassed by them. So I'm really, really proud of who I am. I always have been, I always will be, and I make sure that whatever I do, I bring that tradition, bring that element, and bring that upbringing with me wherever I go. we were very few in number. And I think one of the hardest things have always been is that now I think in schools, when I look around there, Diwali, Eids, all these sort of occasions are celebrated and celebrated really well. In my day, you had to take a day of sick leave to have a day off for a religious festival. Ramadan, for example, if anyone was practicing and wanted to fast, it was just completely bewildering to teachers and students. Everybody like, no, come on, you want to have some water, you really want to eat something. It was just really, really unknown. And I think now culturally, people are so in tune with different religions, different backgrounds, different faiths compared to before. And I also think that growing up back then, and I was a 80s, 90s baby, so I completely get that side of things, from what it is now to what it was then. And I think there was a whole different element of racism, particularly in those days, which I think now, because of the woke generations, I like to call them, it's still there. I don't deny racism still does exist, sadly, even in 2023. But I think it's a lot less than perhaps it was before. I think integration is a lot more so now, particularly for young children. And I think that's really important. When I was growing up, there wasn't so much of it. So people didn't know about other cultures, other traditions, other religions as much as they perhaps do now. So I think it's really commendable that young people now are more astute than we perhaps were when we were at that age. Quite a few, but I think the major ones that we're facing is that anytime something goes bad and a Muslim or a Pakistani is named, I think everybody gets tarnished with the same brush. It's a real shame, but I think that when you hear about news stories, you hear about murders, you hear about sex rings, etc., as soon as they say this person is a Muslim or Pakistani, bam, that's it. And then everybody else, unfortunately, who's been doing good, or fortunately, who's been doing good work, then gets tarnished with the same brush. And then it just seems that we tend to go backwards rather than forwards. I mean, from all the Pakistanis I've ever met and ever known, they've always been peace loving. Everyone gets on. They're all positive about integration. But then these sort of stories really put everyone, not just those few who, every culture, every background has bad apples. But unfortunately, this seems to tarnish everybody. And it's a really bad image. And the media does play a part in it. I've said it on many occasions. I wish they would turn it on its head and try and show the positives and the good that Muslims do and Pakistanis do, and Muslim Indians do as well. But they just tend to want to be able to either sell papers or get more likes or get more views. And unfortunately, that's the sad reality of the world we live in. It's a real surprise. I genuinely, when it came through, we had an email. I initially thought it was a joke or a wind up. And I remember telling my press officer at the time saying, this email's come through. I think they've gone a bit crazy. Can you deal with it? And I quickly popped out to a meeting, came back and goes, listen, you need to know it's absolutely 100% genuine. And they've asked for some background data. They've asked for your age, etc., all of this information. So can I give it? I said, yeah, you can give it, but I don't think it's going to happen. He said, no, it's a done deal. You are getting it. So when it came to public light, I actually still, up until the point it was announced, I told him, I said, don't tell anyone because it can probably take it back. I didn't believe that it was going to happen. So I said, just don't tell anyone. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But just leave it. So he didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. And then it got announced. So then eventually at 6 a.m, some friends of mine from London called me. I was like, have you seen the BBC? And I was like, no, what's happened? They're like, you're on the list. And I was like, what list? And it was just that reality that, okay, this actually has happened now. I wasn't just thinking it was a joke, and it ended up being a joke. So yeah, very proud, very sort of humbled by the experience. And to be named with such incredible women was really, really, I should say, something that I wasn't expecting, but I was really, really happy to have had it. So very blessed there. I feel like I have the weight of like 10 elephants on my shoulders, to be fair. I seem to be the beacon for anything ethnic minority related, to be fair. I think when I was elected, there was this big sort of flag flying moment for everybody, which was amazing. And I have to say I was welcomed with open arms by everyone from all different political backgrounds and parties, which often doesn't happen. So I was very much respected. I still think I am, even though we may have political differences. I do also feel that there's a pressure to try and show the Welsh Parliament as being as representative as possible. And that can be quite hard because as much as I can fly the flag for my party that selected me and the voters that elected me, the Welsh Parliament itself has a responsibility itself to ensure that other people from diverse backgrounds work there, understand that there are opportunities for them there. And I can't do that for every single job and every single role that they have. So sometimes I do feel that my position can get a bit skewed. I'm here to encourage everyone to get into politics, whether it's national politics, local, regional, whatever you want. I always believe that we are representative of the society we live in, and politics should be the people that it represents. You know, it should be the people who walk down the street, and it should be a visual that people can see themselves being a politician. I know it can be off-putting for people, thinking, why would I want to go to a job where I have to reapply and fight for it every 4 to 5 years? Well, the satisfaction you get from doing something that you love and being able to help people in so many different ways, I can't put a price or a value on that. Believe you me, Faria, when I say it, it's something that I would encourage everyone to get into, aspire to, and please, even if you're not a conservative, I know I am, and I'm flying the flag for my party, but even if you're not a conservative, just get involved in politics. There's no harm in it. I know a lot of people have this obsession, especially if you're Pakistani or Indian, to fly the flag and follow Indian or Pakistani politics. But you need to focus on what's happening in front of you. And believe you me, the amount of difference that we can make in the political world here in the UK is phenomenal. So there's an opportunity for everyone. And please don't ever get disheartened or think you can't do it, because you can. I remember when I got elected, actually, the first story, and I remember being approached by a really popular, well-known news channel. And they came up to me and said, if you win, we want to run the story that deceased member's daughter wins. And I was like, and I sat there and I was there with my mum, and I was like, and she said to me, she goes, are you okay? I said, no, I'll be really annoyed if they run this headline for me, because it shouldn't be the case that I should be recognized for a deceased member's daughter winning. So she said, okay. So I said to her, well, why on earth have you not thought about making it first woman of color wins election? And then they were like, are you? So even journalists standing there on the day of my count had to go and Google whether or not I was the first woman of colour being elected into the Welsh Parliament in history, because they didn't themselves believe the fact that this was happening in front of them. Then eventually when they realised, so it's almost like I had to make up my own headline and hand it to them on a platter. I wish that wasn't the case. I'm glad it happened, because the other headline really would have irritated me. But at the same time, the fact that I had to do that was a real shame. Standing up for what people believe in and making sure you're on the right side of things. Often in politics, we are scrutinized for everything, from buying a pencil sharpener and charging it to expenses to, you know, standing up for what people believe in. I think it's really important to be reflective of the society we live in and make sure that at the moment I'm flying the flag for 20 miles per hour here in Wales, because it's come out as a blanket speed limit across Wales. And even though I represent Southeast Wales, I've got constituents from North, South, West, every part of Wales contacting me, and they have been doing so for months, saying, please help us, please help us. And I think being a voice for the people, regardless of whether you represent them or not, is so, so, so important, because ultimately you're doing a public service, but making other people understand that you are there for them, just making people feel that you care. And I sincerely do care about my constituents as well as those who aren't mine, because my portfolio is transport. So making other people aware that there is someone out there who's here to listen, who actually cares and will do anything and everything to support them, I think that's a sign of a really good politician. Ask this question literally all the time, and can I put my hand on my heart and honestly say I have been so, so blessed within my group and my party. They have been above and beyond supportive. They've been above and beyond committed to making sure that I never experience any sort of hate or any sort of, I should say, unfairness from anybody. In fact, they've been standing by me, like, honestly, like I was going to say a pack of soldiers, because that's exactly what they are. I feel like they've been so protective of me in every way, shape, and form that I have no quibble. And thankfully, thank God, honestly, above that, I have not had any bad issues or any sort of frightful situations. You often hear about politicians, male and female, going through really bad scenarios, experiencing hate and racism. Honestly, I haven't had any of it. So I'm very proud of that fact, but I also don't want to negate from those who've had it, because I very much believe if someone's experienced racism and hatred, they should have it dealt with adequately. They should be taken care of, and they should be supported by not just their parties, but their colleagues as well. And like I said, I've been very blessed. I haven't had that, but I know I'm very much supported by mine. Say, please get as much experience as you can. If you're interested, just ask. I say this to everyone. I speak to countless school children, professional women, groups of women, men, and all sorts of different working backgrounds as well. And I always say, if you have an interest, just take that first step. Join a political party, get involved in associations. You can get involved, stand for election. Don't expect to win the first time. If you do, that's an added bonus. I won my 6th election. I stood 5 previously to this one. So rejection is something I've always hated. I've never liked it. It never works well for me. And I put my hands up and say, not a fan of it. However, it does build you up, because once you get that victory, you appreciate it so much more. And you will also appreciate the hard work that you've done and put in to get to that level. And when you do, you're respected for it as well, because some people who stand for election and win don't have a clue of what they're doing. But the beauty is what I've done is, and this is my personal experience, everyone's very, very different. Some people go from council to member of parliament, etc. Some people go from their, working life, whatever that may be, in my instance, from TV presenter to politics. That's everyone's career choice. But what I have done over the years is worked in every single job that I've created in my office. So everyone who works for me, I've done their jobs. So when it comes down to, if I have to sit down and do casework, I can do it. If it comes down to having to sit down and plan out a strategic plan for my PR, etc., I can do it. If it comes down to figuring out what policies we need to go forward with, I can do it, because I've done that. So it's important to gain that knowledge, gain that experience, and don't feel that you're lagging behind, because there's no age restriction on politics. And the beauty is you can join at any time. You can be as active as you want to be. You can sort of step in and out whenever you wish. And you can make sure it revolves around the responsibilities that you have. So if you have a family, if you have a career, you can always juggle. And that's the beauty of politics. It's there for everybody. I get asked this question an awful lot as well, believe it or not. So I always say to everyone, if there's one thing I've learned never to say in my life, it's never say never. So when I get asked, so would you want to go for this role? Would you want to go for this position? I'm always like, I'm never going to say never, because whenever I've said it, I've ended up doing the same thing. So just like I said to you before, I said I'd never stand for election. Here we are. So when it comes to it, I always say sky is the limit, and watch this space, because like I said, I am ambitious. There's no hiding, or there's no secret about it. I think everyone knows that from meeting me, from knowing me as well as they do. I'm sure you will over time as well get to know me in such a way where you'll understand that she is ambitious. She will go places. And yeah, like I said, the sky's I get asked this question an awful lot as well, believe it or not. So I always say to everyone, if there's one thing I've learned never to say in my life, it's never say never. So when I get asked, so would you want to go for this role? Would you want to go for this position? I'm always like, I'm never going to say never, because whenever I've said it, I've ended up doing the same thing. So just like I said to you before, I said I'd never stand for election. Here we are. So when it comes to it, I always say sky is the limit, and watch this space, because like I said, I am ambitious. There's no hiding, or there's no secret about it. I think everyone knows that from meeting me, from knowing me as well as they do. I'm sure you will over time as well get to know me in such a way where you'll understand that she is ambitious. She will go places. And yeah, like I said, the sky's. I know most people who would know me and have done their homework on me would probably say it's probably going to be 99% your dad, because he was in politics. And for me, it's all very nice to say that Margaret Thatcher, Benazir Bhutto, there are so many people, inspirational women in politics, who could inspire a woman, especially in politics today's age. But for me, I always find the most inspirational people are people who I can see with my own eyes, who I've heard with my own ears, and who I've seen go from literally the bottom all the way to the top. So yes, from my perspective, my dad, he was the one who I saw go through ups and downs, highs and lows. But my actual political inspiration, which will probably shock a lot of people, is my nana. So my nana was the first Muslim mayor in London of the area of Brent. And his name was Karamat Hussain. And he's, believe it or not, he was always a diehard socialist, which I know you think socialist and conservative, we are completely poles apart. But he loved me dearly. He always told me, he said, in conversation, you should never talk about three things. Those were religion, politics, and a person's salary. So these are three things of his that he always stood by. And yes, he passed away a few years ago, and he was always really passionate about getting into politics, doing it himself. He was an engineer by profession, got into politics. He was one of the few sort of Pakistani originated men. He first gen from our family, and he lived in Dollis Hill. He was a councillor there. He excelled within the council. And after becoming a councillor, he retired and he moved to Wales and stayed here. Obviously, wherever my mum was, he'd be near her, near myself, my dad. And he always loved the fact that my dad got into politics. And he always used to say to me, he said, Bit, I would really love for you to get into politics too. And I'd always laugh it off and be like, no, it's fine. I'm happy where I am, whether that be in finance or media. But he's the one who really has inspired me. And I think he's the one who has always taught me how important it is to worry about the people. People should be the public, your constituents, they should always be at the heart of every decision you make. They're the ones who have put you where you are. So you should always appreciate that their view, their opinion will supersede your own. So when I make a decision, if I make some sort of career choice or whatever, and my heart of heart, I do think of my constituents first. how will it benefit them? How will it help them? When I'm fighting a personal fight or a political fight right now, I'm flying the flag everywhere under the sun for 20 miles per hour here in Wales because people just don't want it as a blanket 20 miles per hour. It's because my constituents don't want it. And I care about their voice. Unlike other politicians, I'm not here for the money. I'm not here for the ego. I'm not here for the fame, because quite frankly, I would have done better in my previous job doing that. If you get into politics, and that's what my father said, my grandfather said, don't ever do this for money, don't do it for fame, do it because you care. And one thing I would really like to reiterate is that I'm an only child. I don't have brothers. So for my dad and for my grandfather, I was their son and I was their daughter in one. So one thing I have to really commend is the fact that even as men, they really pushed me forward. They were like, there's nothing you can't do. I find a lot of parents, particularly Asian parents, want their children to go into professional fields, which is great and wonderful, but politics is not really seen as a conventional career for a lot of people, saying that, oh, why do you want to be a politician? Why do you want to have, like, people swearing at you, cursing at you? It comes with the territory, but you just have to take it on the chin. But I would really encourage everyone and say, do you know what? It's a really decent, dignified career to follow. So please don't think to yourselves that it's going to be really hard or difficult. Yes, you will have hard and difficult times. No job is easy, but it's one that will be so much worthwhile. And the matter of pride that you have, that you're representing a constituency, a region, an area, there's something you can't put a price tag, you can't put a value on it. And it's something that really does give a lot of people so much joy, including me.